What is up, crafters? My name is Fancy, this is a sugarcane farm, and everyone who put out a tutorial on how to make this farm in the last 5 years is dumb. Okay, let's back up just a little bit so I can explain myself. First and foremost, let's do a very quick overview of sugarcane and the basics of the standard sugarcane farm. This piece of junk is what I mean when I say the standard farm. It is the most common version by far. Sugarcane can only grow next to water. No water, no sugarcane. That simple. It doesn't matter if you use a water source or flowing water, as long as there's water, you are good to go. Sugarcane can grow up to 3 blocks high. See, 1, 2, 3. See? 1, 2, 3. Once it is 3 blocks tall, it will stop growing. And that means that if you are farming sugarcane, you really never want it to be sitting at 3 blocks tall, because then it can't be growing anymore. This means you want to break it as soon as possible, and when you break it, make sure to break it in the middle. If you break it from the bottom, you'll have to replant it, and that's not good. Sugarcane is also used as an ingredient for some of the most important items in Minecraft. Items such as books, firework rockets, the enchanting table, or even cake. Moving right along, we are once again looking at the standard farm. One of the reasons this farm got so popular is that it is modular. This means that it can be extended horizontally or vertically until you reach build limit, which means you can always ensure that this farm is the perfect size to fit your needs. I know this farm may look a little intimidating if you're new to Minecraft, or maybe you're just new to building, so let's break it down. This here is a single module. We have a water source with a piece of sugarcane in front of it. There is a piston facing the middle of the sugarcane and an observer on top. Observers can only see 1 block directly in front of them, and they are looking for something, anything to change. Finally, we have a piece of redstone dust powering the observer. This isn't a redstone video, so I won't go into much detail, but just think of it like your morning breakfast. You don't want to go to school or work without eating, and the observer doesn't want to do its job without redstone. So, give it some redstone. If you want to expand this farm, watch. It is this easy. To finish this farm, you just need 2 things, and we are almost done, I promise. Every one of the farms I'll talk about will need a wall. I'm not going to keep building the walls because it takes too much time and I don't want this video to be forever, but just remember to build a wall in your own farms. The wall does not need to be glass, but I like to see inside my farms. You can use whatever block you want. The wall is only used to prevent the sugarcane from flying out of the farm so you can collect as many of the drops as possible. The second thing that all the farms need is a collection system. For these small farms, I really recommend a nice stream of water. Where's my hydro homies at? Water is cheap, and you can use the water to push all of the drops into a hopper, which will then feed the items into a chest. Your other option is a minecart system. If you don't know, a hopper minecart can collect items through a full solid block and then feed them into the hoppers as it passes over them. A very quick setup like this can add a lot of character into your farm and make your farm a lot more exciting to look at as you go about your world. Now, thank you all for sticking with me, but I'm sure you're wondering why the standard farm is oh so terrible. And I hear you barking, big dog, so let's jump into it. It is no longer 2014 and the game has changed. So why are new creators making tutorials for the same farm years later? At this point, the standard farm is overly expensive and unnecessarily laggy. Lag may not be a problem for everyone, but for those on some servers or for those who expect their world to last hundreds or thousands of days, lag may start to become an issue, so why not help prevent it wherever you can? And when I say overly expensive, I mean the required materials. When you put out a YouTube tutorial, you need to expect your viewer has absolutely no knowledge on the subject and will simply copy exactly what you do. You can see in the standard farm, every single module has an observer, and to make an observer, you need nether quartz. This means the viewer is going to have to waste time mining quartz in the nether or exploring caves for additional redstone when they could just have their farm up and running already producing sugarcane. The reason they're able to do that is mainly because you don't need all these observers. In fact, you don't need any. Okay. We're finally at the farm. Let's start out by digging a trench however long you want. I'm just gonna make it however long this is. Perfect. From here, we're just gonna dig down 1, 2, just like so. Place a chest there and a hopper there. What we've done is made it so that any drops that land in the water will be pushed all the way into the hopper, and then it will lead into the chest. You can also put a glass block on top of the chest and access it like this if you want, but it doesn't really matter. Behind the water, I'm going to skip one row. This is where the sugarcane is going to go, and then I'm going to place a row of temporary blocks behind that. On top of this row of temporary blocks, I'm going to place a row of pistons. And now I'm going to place my row of sugarcane in front of it. This looks pretty similar to the standard farm, and you're right, it is at this point. Oops. We're going to put another row of junk blocks on top of the pistons, put a redstone torch in the middle. The redstone torch can power up to 15 blocks in each direction, and then on top of that redstone torch, we're going to place another block, and then once again, just make a row of blocks just like so. So the farm should look just like this so far, and then we are going to add some redstone to the back here. Just increase the tick speed so you can watch the sugarcane grow in real time. And as you can see, the pistons are breaking the sugarcane without a single observer in the farm. That wasn't that hard, was it? And this is why you need a wall. We're losing a lot of sugarcane here. But now what if you're like, oh, but I've already made a few observers, and I don't like how that farm is so noisy. Okay, well, let's try it again. Once again, we're gonna start with a trench, build it as long as you want, dig down 2 right here, put down your chest and your hopper. That is your collection system. Just make a wall right here somewhere. The sugarcane will be going right here. However, before we do that, we're gonna put down a row of temporary blocks just like last time. And then we are going to put the pistons on top of those temporary blocks. This just makes it easier to set up. You do not need these blocks if you don't want to, so you can break them if you want. Put down your row of sugarcane. So now we're just gonna go ahead and place our, no, we're not gonna place our observers just yet. What we're gonna do is place a row of building blocks behind every single piston. What we are gonna do is extend this out by 2 blocks, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then put 2 more blocks on the side of it just like so. Now what we're gonna do is instead of putting an observer on top of every single piston, what we're gonna actually do is put one observer right here. This observer is still facing this sugarcane, so once it grows to be 3 blocks tall, this observer will notice the change and then tell the pistons to punch. But we need to wire that first. So what I like to do is take a piece of redstone dust, place it right behind the observer as per usual, place another piece next to it, another piece next to that, and right here we are going to place our redstone repeater. This allows us to add up to 15 pistons in this direction before we have to make any changes to the farm. This also will allow for something that I'm going to show you in just a minute. So in the meantime, just put a piece of redstone on the building blocks leading out of this repeater, just like so. Now what's going to happen is, once again, if we go to full speed, the sugarcane will start to grow. Uh-oh, that one's at 3. And just like that, we can make a very similar farm using only 1 observer. You may have noticed, however, that some of the sugarcane did reach 3 high, meaning that it can't grow anymore and that we are losing productivity. Well, this farm is actually very easy to upgrade. After building this farm, perhaps you've gathered a few more materials and now you want to make this standard farm because you have enough materials. All you need to do is, as you get the observers, just place them down on top of the pistons like before. Every time you place a new observer, you now have another fully working module that will impact all of the pistons. So if this piece of sugarcane grows, all of the pistons fire. You can continue to expand it until you have an exact copy of the first farm. The only difference is we were able to get this up and running much sooner, and we were able to expand it at our own pace. Now, I didn't forget about the repeater. Another thing that you can do in this farm is simply add another observer facing it. As you can see, the pistons will fire constantly, and that can get a little annoying. But with the repeaters, you can actually slow that down. So if we put this observer back, that is very fast. But as we right-click the repeater, you can see this farm is now going much slower than before. And the benefit to that is that the pistons are always firing. Because sugarcane grows so slowly, they will always break the blocks as they are only 2 high. They will never have an opportunity to reach 3 high. But there is still one more issue that we talked about, and that is that it is laggy. So let's move on to the final option that you have in your world. In the final farm, the point of this farm is to help mitigate the lag on your world or on your server. If you create a long farm and all the pistons are extending at once, there is a chance that can create a lag spike. So this is what we can do to help mitigate the lag from your server. So this is what we can do to help mitigate the lag in your world or server. Once again, we're going to start by digging a little trench, filling it with water. There we go. We should all be familiar with this. And now do you guys know the next step? We are going to put down a row of temporary blocks back here. This way we can put the pistons on top of them. Does everybody remember that? I hope so. I've said it 3 times now. Up top, we're going to place our observers. I know they're expensive. We've already gone over that. You don't have to use this farm if you don't want to. This is just an example. And now what we're going to do is behind every piston, we're going to place a row of temporary blocks, and then we're going to place a row of redstone on those blocks. Are you with me so far? And for those of you who are like, we've just made this standard farm again, you're actually right. I just want to see who's paying attention. Let's get rid of that row, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to place 1 row of blocks at the bottom behind all of the temporary blocks that we placed our pistons on, and then we're going to place a 2nd row of blocks up top behind the observers. As you can see, nothing has happened just yet. However, if we place down a piece of redstone, boop. Now watch what happens as we add a whole row of redstone. We're gonna increase the tick speed. I should have done like 1,000. We've made it so that the pistons will fire individually, so you don't have every piston firing at the same time. And all it took is moving this row of redstone down 1 block, if you remember it used to be right in the middle, and then adding another row of dirt blocks. And I understand that this farm now costs more than the standard farm because you have to use an extra row of dirt blocks. However, I think you would be very hard pressed to argue that those dirt blocks are worth more than the potential lag that you are saving in a long-lasting world. And I just think it looks cool. I mean, look at it go. And that is going to be it for this video. That is 3 fully automatic redstone sugarcane farms. But I don't like any of them, so subscribe if you want to see a real sugarcane farm. Love you.